Welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here. In the last lecture, we talked about the food security and its basics, the World Food Day, when it's celebrated and what is its theme this year, that water is life, water is food, and leave nobody behind, basically. And when it's celebrated, what is the reasons of world food insecurity and the extent. And I told you about the mapping also. So you can watch that previous lecture from this lecture and understand the basics. We figured out that we have two things to deal with in India especially. One is the irrigation problem and the second is the climate change problem or building a resilience. So in this lecture, we'll be talking about all this as well as we'll figure out how to make a mind map for the mains answer writing and how to write it. So climate change adaptations, the FAO also supports the sustainable transformations of agri-food systems and climate smart agricultural practices. So this is a main term here, climate smart agriculture practices. So we can see from Israel also which practices we have borrowed, as well as from some South American countries such as Brazil, etc. All right, how we can get inspired from them. What are other countries doing can serve as a model for us. It supported the Farmer Water School program in Uttar Pradesh. All right, so we are talking about the FAO initiatives right now. So this Farmer Water School program, this you can give an example in your body. So which helped smallholder farmers. At the same time, the Andhra Pradesh Farmer Managed Groundwater Systems project reached out to 683 habitations in 7 drought-prone districts. That included a hydrological monitoring program. So this also, this Andhra Pradesh program, Andhra Pradesh Farmer Managed Groundwater System project, this is also a program of the FAO in India. So keep a track of such programs when we are talking about these big issues such as the global food insecurity. So these are not only current topics but also static topics. And about them we should always have our notes ready. Okay, anytime question can be asked. Furthermore, IFAD has enshrined climate change adaptation in its core strategies. It set ambitious targets in terms of leveraging climate financing to mitigate climate change by addressing the adverse impact of agriculture and helping farmers to adapt to the increasing volatility of weather conditions. Please note that these two are very different terms, the climate mitigation as well as climate resilience. So please understand these both terms and figure out the difference between them. You can tell me in the comment section, we'll discuss it in next lecture. So investing in the restoration and preservation of soil health, water resources and merging modern technologies with indigenous knowledge systems to build productive and resilient production systems and value chains. So this you can write in the way forward, all this. Furthermore, IFAD supported project in Maharashtra, Odisha, Uttarakhand, Nagaland and Mizoram incorporate climate resilient seed varieties and crops, including millets, and train farmer in climate sensitive agriculture practices and soil management to cope with increased water stress. So this you can also write again in the way forward. The WFP, which is the World Food Program, is collaborating with the government of Odisha to develop solutions for smallholder farmers focusing on women. So we have talked about various different parties here, that is WFP, FAO, IFAD, and we have listed programs about them. This has programs in various different Indian states. This has also, and which schemes they are supporting and how. So we can make a mind map or notes about these. In half page we can make them and use them in answer writing. Furthermore, let's talk about the way forward finally for this answer, that to achieve global food and nutritional security, political commitment is needed as much as the concrete investment. So here we are talking about the administration and financial inflow. These two are again the primordial requisites for any sort of change. The needed policies and investment must promote innovative and proven technologies that allows farmer to increase their productivity. These are all individual points, even you can write them one by one, such as adapt to climate change. This adapt to climate change, please remember it again and again. This is different from mitigation, all right? And become more resilient to shocks. That means we are following the adaptation approach, where the climate events will happen. We are not trying so much to stop them. We have accepted that they will happen and we have to be resilient towards them. All right. Furthermore, environmentally and socially sustainable and financially viable irrigation and water management strategies. So this is very important. reduce the climate footprint of agricultural production. Now, climate footprint is essentially CO2 production, which leads to global warming, which will lead to climate change, and which will lead to a decrement in the food security, as well as biohazards and environmental pollution. Bring sanitation and drinking water supplies closer to rural households. Adopt efficient food and water recycling strategies and strengthen institutional arrangements and capacity for sustainable and equitable water regulations, management, access, and ownership. So this is very important. This I will post in the Telegram group also. The Telegram group also. This PPT or PDF, whatever you call it. So from there you can make notes directly. All right. I have taken this from various different organizational websites. Right. Furthermore, the UN's food agencies. So we have seen various food agencies: FAO, WFP, or many others. So they work closely with the government of India and state governments on innovatives such as solar for resilience. So solar must be related to some sort of solar energy for resilience. This resilience is again and again very important. Secure fishing and the revival of millets for renewable energy promotion, food security and nutrition. So this millet mission 2023 is the year of millets, International Year of Millets. So you can read about this more. All right. So now we have made a mind map, what we saw from the beginning of this lecture and the previous lecture also, that we talked about the food security. So we realized the extent of the problem, that which countries are facing a problem because of the food security. So we realized that most of it is in Africa, South Asia, and some Central Asia, as well as Ukraine, Russian region. All right. The Western countries are primarily safe from this sort of inconveniences. Okay. Second thing we saw, what are the reasons? So various reasons we figured out. We saw the body of the answer, where we could tell the data and statistics, as well as the contingencies which arise out of the food insecurity and what it can bring. Then we saw the challenges involved. All right, and finally the way forward. This way forward is very, very important. We can list out here the various programs and functions. We can also list that a political will is needed and the end of conflict is very mandatory. Also, good water, food, and irrigation systems and infrastructure will help us reach there towards the food security goal. And we can end up with an SDG, let's say, SDG 2. So we'll be able to achieve SDG 2 by 2030, yes or no. So we should keep a positive outlook that we will be able to achieve. Okay, in 2023, a question came related to this topic, the food security and water. So consider the following statements: that India has more arable area than China. Arable area means area that can perform agriculture upon. Second option was the proportion of irrigated area is more in India as compared to China. Please be aware, it's asking about the proportion, not the total area. It's asking about the proportion. All right, the average productivity per hectare in Indian agriculture is higher than that of China. So it's saying the productivity. Now again, it is asking about the average productivity per hectare. So the question is asking how many of the above statements are correct. So let us see the question. First of all, when we talk about this India has more arable area than China. So this we cannot figure out, it's a fact that China does not have so much of arable area. It's a big country, quite bigger than India, but it is mostly sort of barren land in the middle of it, especially towards Mongolian side. All right, so India does have more arable area than China. However, the proportion of irrigated in area is more in India than that of China. So this is also true. Irrigated area is more in India than China. However, the average productivity per hectare in Indian agriculture is not higher, but lesser than that in China, because China has to support a large population and it has less area as well as less irrigation. So the productivity has to be higher. naturally. All right. So let us see the statements. Statement 1 is correct. India has the largest cropland or arable land of any country at 180 million hectares compared with almost 180 million hectares with the 167 million in the US or 165 millions in China. Russia ranks fourth, while South Asia and Europe are labeled agricultural capitals of the world, as cropland accounts for more than 80% of some countries in those regions. In comparison, only about a fifth of land in the US and China is dedicated to growing food. So China is working towards secondary and tertiary sector. So the arable area is not as much. All right. And it's also because of the geographical reasons that the large country has much of it as barren land. All right, let's come to the next point. So China's irrigation cover is 41% of cultivated area, and India's is 48%. Hence, India has high proportion of irrigated area. So India has overall more area, as well as 48% of its area is irrigated, comparison to 41% of China. Let's see statement 3. So as a result of this irrigation, China's total sown area is 166 million hectare compared to India's gross cropped area of 198 million hectare. Even with much lesser land under cultivation, China produces agricultural output valued at 1,367 billion, more than 3 times that of India's 400 billion production. So productivity is 3 times higher. All right, China's productivity in most crops is 50 to 100 times higher than of India's. So why is that? This is the gist of the lecture also, that despite having low irrigation, low area, China has more food security. So they have better water management. They have better cropping or resilient crops that don't fail, give more output. All right, or give more quality output. They have better fertilizers. They have better techniques or equipments. All right. So India, which is known for its past, especially in the agricultural field, so China is beating it completely by three times, even with lesser water and lesser arable area. So this is the gist of this lecture, that how can we work on this model and how can we provide a similar level of food security despite having failing crops, the current climate change events, and El Nino, all right, which is coming. Now let us see one more thing, that which issues we can connect to this lecture. So main global issues related to food insecurity right now are COVID effect, global economic inflation. So what happened during the COVID, we will see. Another thing is the conflicts that are going on in various countries, especially in Africa, in Central Asia, in the Russia-Ukraine region, and in the Europe as well, in the Middle East, Israel, etc., Syria, Damascus. All right, Russia-Ukraine war, climate change. Climate change has brought much disaster recently in the South Africa. Pakistan completely, it's because of the climate change. The floods that came in Pakistan, after the floods, everything changed for Pakistan and there was huge food insecurity. All right. Lastly, we'll see the rising population of the world and in context of India also. India is the most populated country now. All right. So let's see very quickly all these things. So when we take an overview on the food insecurity, there's a global food crisis. It's an accepted point of view, the largest one in the modern history. So since the UN World Food Programme's creation in 1963, never has hunger reached such devastating highs. Now, why is this? Let's see. So from the eruption of new conflicts, this is reason number 1. And the escalating impacts of the climate change, this is reason number 2. To soaring food and fuel costs, this is reason number 3. Millions of people are being driven closer to starvation each day. This is the extent of the problem. And this is the conclusion of the problem or consequence of the issue. So these things should be clear when we are reading something, that what we are reading about, so that we can use and replicate the information in our answer. So nearly 350 million people around the world are experiencing the most extreme forms of hunger right now. Of those, nearly 49 million people are on the brink of a famine. Behind these massive statistics are individual children, women and men suffering from the dire effects of such severe hunger, such as malnourished mothers give birth to malnourished babies, passing hunger from one generation to the next. So this is generational hunger problem. So let us see some countries. So from the Central American Dry Corridor and Haiti, through the Sahel region, Central African Republic, South Sudan, and then eastwards to the Horn of Africa, Syria, Yemen, and all the way to Afghanistan, conflict and climate shocks are driving millions of people to the brink of starvation. So this is mapping portion. I already taught you this, so please be careful around this. WFP ran out of funds to feed Syrian refugees in 2015, and they had no choice but to leave the camps and seek help elsewhere, causing one of the greatest refugee crises in recent European history. So this refugee crisis, a very young boy also died this time in 2015 on the shore of a beach. If you remember that picture, alright, he was lying like this. So that was one of the most influential pictures, and this was crisis. That crisis was because of the hunger refugees. FP's flagship microinsurance program, the R4 Rural Resilience Initiative, protects around 360,000 farming and pastoralist families from climate hazards that threaten crop and livelihood in 14 countries, including Bangladesh, El Salvador, Ethiopia, Fiji, Guatemala, Kenya, Madagascar, and Zimbabwe. So most of these are African countries, and that is where the problem is most. All right. According to a new NASA study, maize and corn crops among the most threatened under a high greenhouse gas emission scenario. This is also very useful in the science and tech portion, JS3, such things. So our main crops are corn or maize, wheat, and rice. All right. So maize crops yield are projected to decline by 24% by 2030, with severe implications worldwide. The production of some other staple crops like rice and wheat is also projected to decline drastically as a consequence of climate change, with supplies of these resources shrinking substantially, particularly in food insurance insecure developing countries. Another thing is global warming is also responsible for droughts. So droughts we have already seen, these three topics we discussed. One is El Nino, one is the rain shadow areas, and the irregular monsoon in India. So that you can see. Catastrophic wildfires. Wildfires you very common in the Europe and Australia region, you saw in the American region also we saw last year in the coast of Florida also. All right. Both of which represent a risk to global food security as they destroy agricultural land and reduce the availability of water, a crucial resource to keep extensive irrigated agriculture going. So what we are predicting that 2050 estimates predict that total number of people living on Earth will reach nearly 10 million. This is the problem of the overpopulation. So we have discussed various factors: climate change, water management, irrigation problem, conflicts, and now population. So more people on the planet means more mouths to feed, basically more demand of the food, and this can put a strain on its resources as the modern agricultural system is already struggling to meet global needs. According to 2020 IPCC special report on climate change, this was much in news. Since 1961, food supply per capita has grown more than 30%. A consequence of this, the use of nitrogen fertilizers and water needed to boost agricultural production have increased by staggering 800% and 100% respectively. So this is all the data you can use in your answer writing. Now we will talk about the world conflicts or wars. So European country and Russia combined contribute to, European country is Ukraine and Russia combined contribute to nearly 1/3 of all wheat exports. So according to estimations in 2021, 55.1% of Ukrainian wheat was exported to Asia and 40.7% to Africa. So these are the countries which require the wheat most. Alright, with countries like Egypt, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Turkey, and Yemen among the largest importers of wheat. But wheat is not the only grain that Ukraine and Russia produce in large quantities. A crucial portion of the world's corn and barley also comes from these two countries. And this is now trapped there because of the war. Alright, resulting in an unprecedented rise in food prices worldwide and foreshadowing a rise in the world hunger. So this problem can also be attributed to the food distribution or agricultural distribution. That some of the countries are completely moving towards the secondary and tertiary sector. It's essentially offloading their work towards some countries like Ukraine, let's say, which are good at the primary sector of crop production and which are exporting the food. Alright, so countries which are not self-reliant in the food production at least, so they will be facing hunger if such things happen. Conflicts or war happen. So this self-reliance in the food production is also one of the major themes of our answer. Lastly, we'll see this COVID-19 crisis. So what happened during COVID-19 crisis? The economic system went to drain. All right, there were, let's say, business shutdowns, strict lockdowns, and travel restrictions. So global economy took a very, let's say, it went downwards basically. All right, and the recovery was not such good for sectors like primary sector and secondary sector. Of course, the tertiary sector people could just go back to office and start working right away on the softwares and coding. But these things, the primary sector and secondary sector, they take time to come back. Okay, if you sow a crop now, it will give results after 3 months. So if you are unable to go to your fields, if you are unable to go anywhere else, so this was completely destroyed in the first place. And secondly, no new crops were being produced that time. All right, so it gave the already available food in the market become inflated in the price. So this is the simple conclusion we can write in our answer. Okay, so causing a sharp rise in poverty and inequality. People around the world, but especially in developing countries, experienced an abrupt disruption to food supplies, and low-income households had to deal with hyperinflation and rising commodity prices. This usually also happens in a normal scenario. It's not very exclusive to COVID. Recently, you saw the tomato prices went very high. Earlier, you might have heard the onion prices went very high. So this is known as the tulip crisis. The price of tulips went very high in America. So everybody started growing tulips, and after that time they were considered completely valueless. So this is what happened with the onion and tomato also. But the same thing happened during the COVID crisis as well. The world economic systems completely went to drain. All right. So how we can shape this answer if, let's say, it comes in our mains answer writing? Then first of all, we will write an introduction that we haven't been able to complete the SDG 2. This is the extent of the hunger, let's say, or famine. So many people are being, let's say, affected by this, and these countries are affected by this, and these are the main reasons. All right, in our body, let's say, we'll write all these statistics I have told and define various different things. We'll put challenges involved in such things, and we'll mix the body with these challenges involved and propose a way forward. Okay, in way forward, we can write all the things that I mentioned, such as better irrigation, better water management, better techniques to produce food, less fertilizer use, less pesticide use. All right, resilient infrastructure, taking the help of the world, different organizations, and various different programs, as well as the political will to set up such institutions. All right, so these factors we can write in the way forward. So this was about today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. This is Yatharth here signing off. Have a very good day ahead. See you again.